Can we say that Michelle Wie has defeated the cruel demons in the golfing world? We're talking about the prodigy, who was supposed to be the greatest female golfer in history, but when she achieved success, many people criticized her. Unfortunately, the never-ending battle against the golfing community has had an enormous impact on Michelle. You will never believe the sad things she went through during her career. But who has the last laugh? And who would have ever thought she would surprise us like this? It's been over 20 years since a memorable event in PGA Tour history. A 14-year-old girl from Honolulu, Hawaii, made her debut on the PGA Tour, playing at home in the Sony Open. She was tall, hit the ball far, made great shots, and had a smile that lit up the room. By then, she had already set numerous records, and she was only 14. She had started playing on the LPGA at just 12, and experts thought she was the one to change women's golf forever. People were saying she'd be the next Tiger Woods, and some even predicted she'd outshine Annika Sörenstam. In her first PGA appearance, she scored 72 and a 68. That second round was one to remember for everyone watching, those special moments that stick with you forever in the history of an event. Michelle was outside the cut by 4 strokes, but then she sank 2 incredible putts from over 10 meters, lifting the whole crowd. She needed to finish with 3 birdies in a row to make it, and she birdied the 16th, celebrating with a shy smile. Then, after par on the 17th, she needed an eagle on the 18th. She reached the green in just 2 shots, really close, but the approach just missed, leaving her with an easy tap-in for birdie. Even though she missed the cut by just 1 stroke, it stirred up a huge debate in the golf world. A 14-year-old girl competing against the best men golfers in the world? Well, suddenly, that innocent smile didn't sit well with everyone since her potential and freshness challenged the existing norms. That was the start of a career with many enemies, some real and some created by her own mind under pressure. It's true that ever since she was a kid, Michelle Wie has shown incredible talent for golf. By the age of 10, she was already competing at the amateur level, wowing everyone who watched her play. In 2002, at just 12 years old, she became the youngest player to qualify for the U.S. Women's Amateur Championship. 2 years later, in 2004, she took it a step further by becoming the youngest golfer to compete in a PGA Tour event. Her performance at the Sony Open in Hawaii, where she made the cut, earned her respect and admiration from everyone in the golfing world. This achievement raised even more hopes for her future, and it seemed like Michelle was bound for big things in women's golf. But not everyone was happy about it. Michelle was a young girl, but she had a personality that didn't always resonate with people. That's why Michelle faced a lot of media scrutiny and cruelty early in her career. They wanted to gather controversial quotes from a 14 or 15-year-old girl who was just having fun and had a special talent. They kind of got to her. In 2004, Michelle said she'd think about going pro if she got what she wanted, which was Tiger money. She joked about it, saying, "If someone comes up with $100 million or a big suitcase, someone opens it up and shows me all the money." This rubbed some people the wrong way. They saw Michelle as too arrogant, thinking she deserved huge sponsorship deals like Tiger's, even though she hadn't achieved a fraction of what he did as an amateur before turning pro. But come on. Are we really going to judge a teenager based on her words? And things get messier when you look at the whole story. Because since she was little, Michelle's parents have played a big, if controversial, role in her career. Her dad, a college professor in Hawaii, was obsessed with Tiger Woods' game and even kept a picture of Tiger's swing in his wallet. He'd check it when Michelle's swing went off while he caddied for her or they practiced together. And her mom, Bo, was a decent golfer who taught her husband the game. With that background, Michelle's parents put a lot of pressure on her from a very young age. They were really strict and always there, with her dad not just as a caddy but also as her agent. They did everything they could to push their daughter to the top of the golf world, but looking back, Michelle might have wanted success too much, which ended up causing problems later on. Some said she was only famous because of her parents, who were accused of being overbearing. But honestly, how much did her parents' pressure and control contribute to Michelle's struggles? Well, that's what led to another big downfall. Maybe it was too soon to throw her into competition against men on the PGA Tour. Her parents and sponsors pushed her into those events, thinking it would make her tougher as a golfer. However, looking back, it seems like they may have rushed that decision. After all, Michelle was just a teenager back then, still growing her skills and maturity. Was it really a good idea to put her in the pressure cooker of the PGA Tour at such a young age? Well, on one hand, it did expose her to tougher competition, which might have helped her improve even more. The PGA Tour is tougher in terms of greens, course length, and overall play, so this experience could have given her an edge. Her involvement really boosted Michelle's fame, grabbing media attention and sponsor interest. Maybe it was a smart move to make a splash in a sport where female players often struggle to get noticed. However, on the other hand, this decision also put a ton of pressure on Michelle. Playing against men was a big statement about her skills and kind of shook up the traditional roles in golf. It took a lot of guts and self-belief, knowing she'd get a lot of scrutiny and criticism. Dealing with all that emotional weight seems to have messed with her head game and how people see her. Once she started playing against men, she lost some confidence. Maybe the pressure and distractions of that time were just too much for a young athlete. Her parents also kind of jumped on the fame train. Back in 2005, just a week before her 16th birthday, Michelle signed a deal with Nike for an outstanding $10 million every year. Yeah, you heard that right. $10 million a year, even though she wasn't really a full-blown pro yet. Many people now consider that deal to be a terrible mistake that ruined Michelle's career. Her parents, eager to cash in on their daughter's fame, rushed into a decision that ended up hurting her in the long run. How come a teenage girl with no pro wins yet scored such a huge deal? Well, it looks like Nike had big plans for Michelle's image. With 40% of their golf business internationally and 20% of global golf retail sales happening in Japan, Wee was the perfect fit. She spoke Korean, Chinese, and Japanese, making her just right for spreading the brand in Asia. But beyond Nike's business goals, this deal might have been too much for a young golfer. Suddenly, Michelle was under crazy pressure, not just from the media and fans, but also from her own parents and sponsors, who wanted a big return on their investment. Instead of letting Wee grow at her own pace, her parents put her in the spotlight with expectations that were probably too high for her at the time. And when her game didn't meet those expectations, the criticism and letdown came rolling in. Was the Nike deal a good move or a bad one? Well, if we think about what she said about wanting tiger money, perhaps it was planned. But what they couldn't predict were the consequences. Then, as if things couldn't get any worse, the whole team decided to bring in David Ledbetter as her swing coach. Ledbetter, a well-known golf instructor, was tasked with perfecting Michelle's game. But looking back, this turned out to be one of the worst decisions of the young golfer's career. Ever since Ledbetter took over her training, she seemed to lose her natural and smooth swing. Instead of playing with the same flair and talent she had as a teenager, she started worrying too much about the mechanics of her swing. How did it go? Well, it didn't really work out. Some experts think Ledbetter filled Michelle's head with so many thoughts and ideas about the perfect swing that it messed with her natural shot making. Instead of just playing golf, Wee seemed more focused on trying to execute the golf swing Ledbetter taught her. Even Ledbetter himself seems happy with Wee's swing now. But many wonder if this mechanical and overthinking approach really helped her game. Did she really need someone to tell her how to hit the ball instead of just trusting her natural talent and figuring it out on her own? Some even blame Ledbetter's and Michelle's parents for ruining her potential. Maybe if they hadn't been so involved in her development, she could have become the best female golfer. It's true, Michelle wasn't performing as expected. Sure, she had some impressive contracts, but nobody forced anyone to sign her. She brought a ton of attention and sponsorship deals to the LPGA Tour during those years. Every tournament she played in, the viewership went up, sponsors wanted to get involved, and the whole golf scene benefited. They forgot she was just a teenager. Not only did the media overlook her, but even the players on the LPGA Tour seemed to abandon her. Every move she made was under a microscope. After some up and down seasons on the LPGA, Michelle decided to study at Stanford while still playing professionally. And yup, once again, she faced a lot of criticism, even from Annika. I find it funny she's going to study. She's at the top of her game and should be playing more tournaments. She played more when she was 15 than she does now. There was a time when the LPGA needed her. Now she's just another player. But that's exactly what Michelle wanted from her college experience, to just be a regular girl, to take a break from being the big deal, the future of women's golf, the player who would change everything. At Stanford, she was just the girl next door and she loved it. Still, she never stopped dreaming and fighting for her sports goals. Sadly, her fight was too tough, mentally and physically. The constant, what could have been thoughts, along with serious wrist injuries, made her shine less bright. She won 5 tournaments as a pro between 2009 and 2018, and one event stands out the most. In 2014, at Pinehurst No. 2, Michelle Wie won the US Open, making her a part of women's golf history. Despite wrist troubles, she achieved her long-awaited goal of winning a major, and not just any major, but the US Open. Michelle has since retired from pro golf to focus fully on her family and other personal projects. Her body said no more. She's married and has a little daughter, who's now her top priority. And she also runs a company that helps improve sponsorships for female athletes performing at the highest level. But her story has a lot to it. It shows how harsh and unsupportive the golfing world could be towards a young star. It teaches us that being a prodigy isn't always a good thing, because there are no guarantees. Her journey through sports made her grow up the hard way, that's for sure. Even though her golfing path had lots of ups and downs, Michelle Wie has managed to move past the mistakes of her youth and become a diverse icon who promotes women's empowerment and the growth of golf in new directions. Let's hope we see many more like her, and this time they're looked after properly.